Hello, and welcome to the Battleship Brawl Companion. I'm Evil Frizergan, and this episode I'll be reviewing the first Cascade Squadron by ferram4. ferram4 being the ferram4 of Kerbal Space Program fame, having being most famous for authoring a few mods that enhance the aerodynamics of the game. True to form, ferram has entered a most excellent entry here. As for the naming, the Cascade Squadron is named after the Cascade mountain range in North America. If I go into the E menu here, we see that each of the three heavy cruisers in this squadron is named after one of the famous mountains in the range. It's a very good looking ship. All three ships are the same except for the color. One red, one green, and one blue. Got a rotating radar, piped smokestack, a generally all-round good-looking superstructure, raised forecastle. These I'm actually not sure. I've seen these on some real-life ships. I'm not sure if they're blast shields or if they're intended to help keep sea spray away from the turrets. But whatever their real-life purposes, they do look pretty neat. And great paint scheme overall. Now I'm going to fire the engines up and we'll see the greatest feature about this ship. So look at the speed. We're making well over 25 meters per second. That's quite easily the fastest ship we've seen so far. Looks like it's averaging around 26 meters per second. Making this almost the fastest ships in the tournament. And speed is really good in this tournament because the faster you are, the less likely you're going to be hit by cram shells, especially for a ship this narrow. This narrow aspect ratio is reflective of what you would expect to be pretty fast in real life. Although from the depths, super huge length drag, it may not be optimal in this context. Still, with ample propellers per ship and a very streamlined hull, we are making previously unheard of speeds. I mean, this is over well over 50 knots, which I believe is faster than any even destroyer was in real life. To get this kind of speed in real life, you'd have to go to like a hydrofoil or at least some of these modern strange hull shapes that are designed for ultra high speeds. The maneuverability is also extreme. We've got a huge yaw rate of, well, it also fluctuates, but around 12 degrees per second, which is fully twice as much as many ships. So, I mean, these ships are not going to be easy to hit at long range. Though their AI is set to be a close-range brawler, which I'll explain more of in a bit. Now, with a ship this fast, stability is going to become somewhat of an issue. This ship has some ACBs, which I've turned off to so I can demonstrate the speed here. But the ACBs do act as kind of a failsafe on the ship's stability. This one in the front is set to cut the engines when the ship detects something in front of it. This is to prevent damaging collisions. We saw it in action once so far against the Achilles. Then a bunch more near the AI have the ship also cut the engines when the pitch exceeds manageable levels. And that's the to keep the ship from going vertical, which would be a very bad thing. Let's see. What else? Yeah. As you can see from that stint, it does guzzle fuel a bit, but I mean, it should be quite enough for a battle in this tournament. Armor-wise, armor is probably the weakest part of the ship. The ship is relatively lightly armored. If I shrink the blocks here, we can see that the majority of the ship has only a single layer of wood, or at best a single layer of metal surrounding it. Some places might have two. The ship only has one AI, but it is protected in this heavy armor compartment, so even though there's only one, it's not super vulnerable. The engine, again, speed is life, is also protected by heavy armor. However, it appears that there is also only one engine. Let me double check the power stats. We've got 1600 power, and that's all coming from this one engine. So those critical components are going the armor route rather than the redundancy route. But on the plus side, the heavy armor does also act as a bit of a ballast, which is important for, I mean, stability is going to be a something you're gonna want a lot of for a ship with this much speed. When you're throwing that much thrust around on such a small ship, I mean, you're really gonna struggle in keeping it stable. But let's talk about the armament. ferram has chosen a sort of high explosive spam strategy, as opposed to having, say, fewer pen depth type guns, which I went for. Owing to the lower muzzle velocity, ferram has chosen to have these ships fight at a relatively close range, averaging roughly around 600 meters. This will mitigate the disadvantages of the lower muzzle velocities of this spam type strategy. Since if you're closer, you're not going to be losing as much velocity to having to elevate, and also your shots will arrive at the target earlier, so the low muzzle velocity won't cost you as much effective accuracy as they would otherwise. The guns are pretty well laid out internally, especially for such a tight space and having to put 2 guns on each turret. Most of these have at least 2, and many have 4 autoloaders connected to them. And with a rate of fire of, I mean, each of these reloads in under 7.5 seconds, with 10 of them per ship, we're looking at a total combined shell rate of more than 4 shells per second. I mean, that's just going to be a heavy rain of high explosive shells. I mean, you don't want to be sitting still and getting caught in that. One final thing, ferram also mentioned that the target prioritization setup. So if I go over here, so most people seem to leave these on the default settings, but ferram has customized these into what he kind of refers to as a bully setting. We see that we've got a negative modifier on blocks, which means that these ships are going to be targeting enemies that have few blocks that are small. Range also has a negative setting. Close things get targeted. Speed is negative, so basically anything small, close, and slow, especially if it's got, well, I believe the speed is actually reads the target's maximum speed rather than their current speed. So having your engines disabled doesn't actually change the targeting weight for this particular one. But a low speed is definitely going to make this ship easier to hit, so that's why ferram calls this the bully setting. It picks on the closest, smallest, and hopefully most helpless target, which can be a good thing. You might want to knock the enemy ship out of the battle quickly before it can repair or get up to any other mischief. On the other hand, it can backfire in certain situations. That's, as with all these cards, that's sort of the risk-reward you face when you're setting these settings. Might as well go over and see the naval AI. You see that the range is set relatively low for this tournament. The maximum range is 1,500 meters for the tournament, but the settings are set to just 800, as is appropriate for these close-in brawler type weapons. Ferram's also elected to use a PID for naval yaw, probably to cut down on the twitching you see sometimes. Unfortunately, it does seem to be an imperfect solution in my experience. Whenever the AI changes its mind, the derivative term gets a large spike. But it does help smooth things out a little. So, actually, let me double check the settings to make sure that is actually the intention. If you set the AI a certain way, you might see. We've got integral time. That's a pretty slow integral time. Derivative time is pretty short. Still, I think I would expect it to. Actually, let's turn this on and see what happens.
Taking control.
Yep, this is now a PID demo. Well, okay, maybe we would have to have an enemy in order to have the AI actually doing funky stuff. Or maybe Nick changed it since I last saw. Is this ship even turning? Let's see. Maybe let's spawn something relatively harmless. A javelin? No, that's got no AI. Sea adder. Okay, let's see what happens. Yeah, we do get a few spikes when the AI decides to change its mind. But overall, it does seem to be at least somewhat cutting down on the twitching we see sometimes. After all, the derivative term is not the only term. The integral term will help out a bit with the twitching. So we see at long range, the shells are forced to make a pretty high trajectory. But as you get closer, the time to target is decreasing considerably. At close range, the enemy is blown sky high. Well, that's about all I got. Not gonna lie, I think this is probably my favorite entry in the tournament. I mean, obviously I want to win, but apart from that, I'd say this is my favorite entry in the tournament. Hasn't lost a battle yet, although there's only been a few in the primary bracket so far. Best of luck to Ferram. Not that I don't think you'll need too much of it, and I'll see you all next time.